Clara's Journey by K.S. Wright. Prologue. Standing atop the terrace, Wayward inhaled deeply, the sea-salted breeze penetrating his lungs. Detecting no sign of his sister, he let out a contented sigh, reveling in the thought of passing a solitary evening. He filled a wine goblet and sank into his favorite chair, absent-mindedly swirling the crimson liquid in his hand, its aroma a sweet salt on his olfactory senses. The view was magnificent, blues that were nearly blinding, the thin division between sea and sky becoming more pronounced as the sun prepared to set. Hidden from view by the shrub-lined cliffs, the stone-built cottage offered privacy that was unmatched by the other villagers' homes. Whenever he spent time on land, this seaside cottage was the perfect place to do it. The terrace offered stunning views of the Black Sea. The dazzling splendor of the sunsets was eclipsed only by the majestic ferocity of the storms. He liked nothing better than when the wind whipped up white-capped waves and the surf crashed on the rocks below. Sipping his wine, Wayward relished the heady flavor, rolling it on his tongue. An evening breeze caused the branches overhanging his secluded home to rustle and sway. Looking across the sea revealed still waters, no wind at all. Annoyed, Wayward felt traces of magic in the air. Damn that woman, he thought, out to ruin an otherwise lovely evening. In the space of a heartbeat, a whirlwind appeared on the veranda, twisting in a furious gyre. It dissolved, sending leaves and branches skittering across the flagstones as Penderwood unfurled herself, standing as tall as the staff in her hand. Wayward shook his head. The ease with which that woman appeared out of thin air was uncanny, and he did not appreciate the fact that she was standing before him now, blocking the view. With a reluctant sigh, he put down his goblet. "I found her," Penderwood exclaimed. "Unfortunately, I can't get close to her. You'll have to do it." Wayward looked doubtfully at his sister. "You've found her before, and lost her again, and why in the blazes should I have to do it? It's your task." "The problem is her occupation," Penderwood said, shooting a meaningful glance at the decanter of wine. "Clara's a whore. No respectable woman will be able to openly talk with her without arousing suspicion. They're busy killing men, not betting them." "The occupation seems quite appropriate," Wayward mused as he filled another goblet and offered it to his sister. "After all, Obnoba offered herself as a prostitute. Besides, you've never been a respectable sort of woman." Penderwood took the wine and glared at her brother. She was the better wizard, and well he knew it. They had matching scars on their faces and gray streaks in their hair as evidence of the first time he truly made her angry. He was 8. She was 10. As an adult, he was smart enough not to press her too far. "All right," Wayward said. "You always were bossy." "Only because you always drag your feet whenever there's work to do," she snapped. "Are you sure she's the one?" Wayward asked, still hoping to avoid the job. "Could it not be her daughter?" Penderwood slumped into a chair beside her brother, still holding her staff in the crook of her arm. "She hasn't got a daughter." "Given her occupation, it seems it would just be a matter of time," Wayward said. "No," Penderwood said. "She's too smart for that. I've seen her gathering pennyroyal, and it wasn't a small quantity either. There was enough there to keep an entire village from getting pregnant." "If she won't produce a child, why on earth are we wasting our time with her?" Wayward asked. It was one thing to go chasing across nations. It was quite another to go chasing across nations for no reason. "She'll accept a Kelto," Penderwood said with a wry smile. "One came through not long after Lugnasad. He was a tinker who claimed he'd only spend one night in the village. He ended up staying 3 nights, and her employer had a good portion of his silver before he left." She chuckled at that. Then, becoming serious, Penderwood added, "The last of the line of Dur are gathered together in Olbia. It's drawing unwanted attention. They cannot remain there. We must send for Newland. Bring him to meet the others. Ice will be forming on the Danube soon, so there isn't much time. They can make preparations for the journey over winter and set out in the spring with the thaw." "Ice has never been a problem for me," Wayward reminded his sister. "And I don't see why we need Newland. He's not king now, never has been, and never will be." "Newland is old and won't relish traveling in the cold, regardless of your mastery over water," Penderwood said. "However, he's still loyal to Clan Dur. With him present, you'll be more likely to get the others to agree to the expedition. For decades, Nolan has longed to see Thorn claim the kingship. He's known Thorn since he was a child and will be able to prod him in ways you can't. If what you say about Klara is true, she doesn't seem a likely candidate, Wayward said. Nolan certainly isn't. Thorn left his old life behind long ago, and I thought Farron and Karen were... Penderwood cut him off. They are the last of the line of Dur. It will be one of them, and it will be her. The Book of Woe clearly states, the last of Enoba's line, the Knitalo dual door, installed as Druidess, the line of kings she doth restore. As one of Enoba's protected, she does earn her keep. To see the rise and fall of kings, like Enoba, she will weep. Elah desires her, and like Enoba she will kill. For to save her own daughter, there is none she will not still. Wayward was not convinced. What even makes you think the time is now? How many prophecies are there? 3? 4? One says the line of Dur will be restored. Another says kingship will be transferred to Clan Nun. In the fading light, Wayward produced a scroll. Penderwood rolled her eyes. Your reliance on scrolls is disheartening. You should have learned to memorize the important bits by now. I keep them around because you refuse to acknowledge what's actually written on them, choosing to make things up as you go along instead. Wayward smoothed the scroll's parchment as he laid it on the table and set his wine goblet at the farther end to hold it in place. Squinting against the dim light, he read the first prophecy. Thorn of Oak takes Ash's son. Goddess flees on ashen mare. Sacred 3 grow as one. To Ash, Oak, and Thorn an heir. That isn't much to go on, Wayward said. It's enough, Penderwood insisted. Wayward ignored her and continued with the second prophecy. Draguar fights Draguars, in battle lost and won. Oak falls ere he greets a son. As father of Thorn's heirs, Ash rises to take its place, becoming king of the Knitalo race. This is equally ambiguous, Wayward said. It's clear enough to me there will be an heir to Clan Dur, but that kingship will be transferred to Clan Nun, Penderwood replied. Or, Wayward countered, Thorn won't produce heirs, and Bronn becomes king anyway. That certainly seems more likely. And Thorn's father fell in battle before Thorn was born, so it might not be a reference to Thorn's child at all, but to Thorn himself, because he's already named his nephews as his heirs. Bronn stood against Thorn in the last election, and 2 of the clans still support him, whereas Thorn has lost all the support he once had. So we needn't bother ourselves. There are other prophecies, Wayward reminded him. Oh, yes, Wayward agreed eagerly. There's this one. For his sins, Elah must atone, but he cannot be killed by one who is maid, mother, or crone. Which makes me wonder why you've got us looking for a woman. It seems a man is necessary to do this job, Wayward said. It's in the Book of Woe, Penderwood replied with a sigh. I just recited the relevant passage for you. A daughter of Enoba's line will do the killing. Wayward frowned and sighed heavily. The Book of Woe speaks of a woman who produces a daughter, but the prophecy regarding the battle of the Draguars speaks of a son. Pointing an accusing finger at Penderwood, he continued, And you tell me Klara is capable of avoiding pregnancy altogether, so she will produce neither son nor daughter. The final prophecy says Elah will not fall at the hands of a woman, which means we don't need her at all. We should be looking for a man. My point is, they can't all be right. Then there is the prophecy the demons stand by. What was the name of the woman who wrote that? Beatrice Nutter, Penderwood replied. Nutter is right, Wayward exclaimed. The woman was barking mad. Have you read that thing? It says, the king takes a lover when brothers are lovers and lovers of the king's lover, and the king's lover loves a brother. When the lover of brothers is the king's lover, and neither maid nor mother, she becomes the defender of maids and avenger of mothers. Then the king's lover, as the lover of brothers, becomes the mother of brothers, and when the king's lover becomes the mother of brothers, the king becomes the father of a daughter. Brother, oh brother. Wayward finished breathless. If that woman is even half as accurate as you claim she is, we happen to be short a pair of brothers. Or multiple pairs of brothers, as the case may be. We have nephews, uncles, and cousins, but no brothers. Penderwood dismissed his comments with a wave of her goblet. We'll just have to make do with what we have. Prophecies don't work that way, Wayward shouted. All the pieces have to be in place. You're deliberately being contrary, Penderwood said. She drained her goblet and set it on the table with a deliberate thunk. I'm going to establish a residence in the Urals not far from the village where Klara resides, so I can keep an eye on her this winter. You need to collect Nulan and deposit him with the others in Olbia. They must be on the road before the full ash moon. Once they are underway, you must get her to agree to join them. This is mad, Wayward said. Nothing here makes a lick of sense. You have nothing to go on. Women's intuition, Pinderwood said. I find it to be highly accurate. Yours or the Nutter's, Wayward chided. Both, Pinderwood said. Then she slipped into a flutter of leaves and vanished.